I'm basically here to tell a story. It's in 4 parts. A glorious past again enters a changing world. And the subtitle of that would be the critical role of having an exceptional board of directors, board of trustees. Chapter 2 is the change. And that's the critical role of an amazing team. The third is a newspaper. Good news, bad news, don't make this mistake. And the fourth is good things can happen. When they do, grab it. Okay, let's go back for a minute to 2005-ish. Mayo Clinic is and has been, for about 140 years at that point, a highly regarded healthcare organization with an unbelievable culture, which, to use David's term, was Mayo Clinic's, or is Mayo Clinic's superpower. You can't get 65,000 people usually to answer a question correctly, a simple question. But at Mayo Clinic, you could ask any of the 65,000 folks who work there, why are we here? What's our primary value? Chris knows it. They would say, well, the needs of the patient come first. And that had gone back since about 1917. And when I first heard that as a candidate to be recruited there as a neurologist, many years before that, I called my wife and I said, it's a different place. It's kind of different. I'm not sure. Don't worry, honey, nothing's going to happen. But the second day I realized that the needs of the patient come first was the outcome, or led the outcome of every committee meeting, every decision, every discussion at Mayo Clinic. And I saw that for the next 28 years. Now, Mayo Clinic was great, but it was, in my opinion, a bit stalled. The world was changing very quickly, and Mayo Clinic also had a slightly different edge to its culture, and that was never to self-promote. Sounds like a good thing if you say it fast, but it can be a double-edged sword in a competitive world. And the answer I got as a young department chair saying, you know, my friends on the West Coast, they don't know that we have a $250 million research budget, and they don't know that we have X number of this and that. And the answer I received was, they'll find us when they need us. So it was, they had done a very good job for 100 years, essentially being a quiet company, never self-promoting, and it did have a bit of a mysterious air to it. I was told by leading journalists later, we don't know what you're doing at the Mayo Clinic, so we either ignore you or we make it up. So I was hearing that sort of thing. The financial performance was ordinary. The quality of earnings was diminishing year over year. And our quality was a little better than the major competitors in the global market, but it was nowhere near what we all knew that it could be. There was no institutional ambition to be the leader in the world in highest quality. It was good enough to be the best we can be, and they'll find us. And that sounds critical. Maybe it sounds a little unbelievable in today's competitive world, but that's where we were. The Board of Trustees were actually concerned. I wasn't in the running to be the CEO, but I was attending these meetings as a senior leader, but not on the board. And a trustee asked, what's your plan for the year 2020, which seemed forever. This is in 2006. And an answer was given, and the trustee then raised his hand and said, sorry, what's your plan for the year 2020? And everybody realized that the first answer wasn't good enough. I was asked, thankfully, fortunately, to lead the group to determine the strategic plan for the year 2020. The trustees liked it, and they asked me to be the CEO, which was a big surprise to everybody, including me and my wife and myself. Like you, many of you, I was fortunate to lead through a period of enormous change. We were facing stiff headwinds just like you are today, as we heard from the first speaker. Tremendous margin pressure, the global financial crisis, which some of you younger people didn't live through, but you studied it, the Great Recession, the Affordable Care Act, quality transparency, which no one had ever done before, and an increased competition for the top of the pyramid, for the serious and most complex patients from around the world. And we were in Rochester, Minnesota, Jacksonville, Florida, and Phoenix, Arizona, so we had some work to do. But working with our board, we basically identified the issue, and we put together a multi-year transformation, a turnaround, a restructuring to improve the quality of the care and our financial performance, with our goal to position Mayo as the global leader in healthcare technology and business development. We had a fantastic leadership team who was willing to boil the ocean. Now, you don't boil it all at once, as you all know, but you do have to boil the whole darn thing. And so we essentially restructured every clinical interface across our multi-specialty and primary care practices, step by step by step. We did the same in the back office for revenue cycle, supply chain, all that stuff. And we made a decision that we would invest in improved processes. But if folks came, as they often did, and said, I hear you're giving away resources, I'd like some, we offered to, if we thought it was a priority, we offered to put them through the process, and if not, they didn't get any resources. We went from being mysterious and quiet, essentially to be a global resource and share everything about the Mayo Clinic. We went from being the city on the hill, that mysterious city on the hill, to really a transparent expression of what we did, and we shared that broadly. One of the trustees said, you've been assigned to be the hood ornament of the Mayo Clinic, which I didn't think sounded like a great job, but we invested deeply in technology, and we boldly came out in year 2 and said, we're going to create a culture of entrepreneurship. Because the world would expect that a place like Mayo would be an entrepreneurial place, but our policies made it very hard for entrepreneurs to thrive there because we were risk averse and we thought that everybody should be treated the same. So there was a bit of work to do there. To do this, to make this change, we had to understand, and we just had the workshops this morning, where the staff were. We needed to create for them a clear picture of why we needed to change. And what really worked the best was we need it so that we can see more sick patients. That's what we do. And patients will benefit from that. We then leveraged our culture, and some of you brought this up this morning. We told them that the Mayo brothers had repeatedly transformed the way medicine was practiced every time that was necessary, including through 2 world wars and the Great Depression. So we're not going to ruin the Mayo Clinic, which was the biggest statement that was coming to me, that you were going to ruin the place. And that's, by the way, a good thing to be asked in a public forum when you have a lot of momentum, because it shows you as a vulnerable leader who they trust as a physician, and they listen to your response, and they kind of attaboy, we can do this kind of thing. It's not easy turning around a successful organization, but the staff did it. It was amazing. And they did it because they eventually understood that this would be good for the people that we serve. We had one question that we asked repeatedly: what is our story? I'm just thinking of the young and mid-career health leaders in this room. Tell your story. How do you express that in the work, the words, and their deeds, just like our Surgeon General just told us? How do the words and deeds of the staff tell the story? So it was a long process. When we drove out the waste and re-engineered everything, our finances really improved Aaron today in the workshop said, you do have to grow the revenue line if you're going to have success. Now, Mayo they'd probably arrest me right now if I said that in the public. So it's not about the money, but candidly, income after you pay your bills is really important, even in healthcare, so you can invest in your people and technology and growth. And the quality of the care, as measured in this publicly reported world that we were in, went through the roof. And once the staff saw that they could make the quality better by reviewing, do we really need to have 8 different mitral valve procedures as an option for the 8 mitral valve surgeons? And they said, no, we don't. Now, things were moving, but I wasn't a seasoned CEO. It never, ever occurred to me that we might fail. It just didn't. That doesn't sound like I'm telling you the truth, but I really believed in it. I was a little naive. I was very proud of our team. The Wall Street Journal came and said, we'd like to study your change agenda and report on your progress. I was like, great. I mean, most of you are going, are you kidding me? You're going to embed the Wall Street Journal? Anyway, 3 years later, after multiple weeks of working with us, their feature article in the weekend section was titled, Mayo Clinic's Unusual Challenge, Overhaul a Business That's Working, which I like that. Our staff liked it. We quietly celebrated, but there was a little problem. And this is for you, those of you who haven't yet worked with the boards you're going to. I hadn't shared this with the board. Can you believe it? I had surprised them. They admonished me never to do that again, as these investigative stories often damage the companies and inevitably lead to the firing of the CEO. But they let me live another day, and better lucky than good comes to mind. But my advice to you is never, ever surprise your board. That's really a bad thing. You might survive it, but you might not. Chapter 4, a film. Shortly after that, in the midst of this transformation, the country's leading documentary filmmaker, Ken Burns, became interested in Mayo Clinic as a great American story. He studied us, and he asked if he could tell our story, Mayo's story. He hadn't, at that point, and he still hasn't portrayed a private institution. But there would be conditions to this contract. We were not allowed any editorial influence on the film's content. Nothing. We couldn't see the film until it was in premiere. This time, with the well-informed board on my side, we agreed to those terms. And we simply said, if you find things that are broken, would you tell us so that we can fix them? They worked with us for 3 years. The fact they were doing this and living with us actually helped the momentum of the staff to accept the idea that we're going to change, that we're important, and get on board. It strengthened their pride in their work and helped us gain momentum. I literally, I guess I'm a pretty trusting person. I literally never worried that it would fail or that we'd be surprised, because I thought we knew ourselves pretty well, until the lights went down at the premiere. And all of a sudden, I said, holy. And I grabbed my wife's hand and said, oh my God, what if? And she said, it'll be all right. And it was. Anyway, they made a film. It's called Mayo Clinic, Faith, Hope, and Science. John asked me to let us show a couple minutes of that film, and we're going to do that now, but thank you.
I was a child growing up in the Midwest, and the Mayo Clinic was a secular temple. It was something that we could all be proud of, even if we had no association with it. And it was there in Rochester, Minnesota, like it had risen up out of the earth in some way.
When William Worrell Mayo and his sons began practicing medicine together in Rochester, Minnesota, a small town 90 miles southeast of Minneapolis, there were only a handful of doctors in the whole county. That 3-person practice has grown into an organization employing more than 64,000 people, with campuses in Florida and Arizona and affiliates all over the world. For 150 years, the Mayo Clinic has been confronting age-old questions about our commitment to taking care of each other, about the role of money and profit in medicine, and about the very nature of healing itself.
Imagine for a minute that you've been told that the doctors don't know what's wrong with you or can't help you. And then imagine, if you will, that you contact Mayo Clinic and Mayo Clinic says, we can help you. Imagine what that does for that patient in terms of hope and inspiration and opportunity going forward for healing. That's what this place is about.
Without losing hope, there is possibility to overcome. Our very life is based on hope. So hope is very, very important for our survival.
Faith, hope, and science, those 3 things are absolutely critical.